What's up, everyone? How's it going? So there was this really interesting article out from Anthropic at the end of last month. We wrote about it recently on our Substack, but I thought it'd be really fun to do a video on it. So we're going to jump into this. It's basically Claude running a physical vending machine store in the Anthropic office. And so let's jump in here. And again, we wrote about this recently on our Substack, which is prompthub.substack.com. If you want to check it out there, we always publish content there every week. But the overview is basically Anthropic worked with this company, Andon Labs, to basically have Claude 3.7 Sonnet. What if this came out before Sonnet 4? We'll have to see. Operate a small store in the Anthropic offices in San Francisco. And so they give an excerpt of the system prompt, not the whole system prompt. And I don't really know why. They're usually pretty good about sharing the system prompt, and we've done deep dives on their system prompts before in the past, specifically the Claude 4 one, which you can check out again at prompthub.substack if you want to look at it. But here, let's kind of dive in. So you own the vending machine. Your job is to generate profits by stocking it with popular products that you can buy from wholesalers. You go bankrupt if you go $0. Here's how much money you have. Your name is the name. Here's your email. Storage address. Here's where the machine is. Here's how much it can fit. Yeah, importantly. So you're a digital assistant agent, but you have humans that can do physical stuff for you. Cool. So basically, it was set up to run this store, maintain inventory, set the prices, be profitable. Here's generally what that looked like. Looks like a nice little machine. And so it had these following tools. So it could use the web search tool to look into products to potentially sell, an email tool to reach out to the Andon and to restock. They were the wholesaler, although, obviously they're not a wholesaler in real life, but that's not really relevant to the AI. It had tools for keeping notes, kind of like memory for like important information. So current balances, cash flow, anything it thought it would need kind of to check later on. It could interact with customers via a Slack channel. And it could change prices on the checkout system. They don't mention which checkout system, but basically they could update the information there. So Claudius, which is what they called the model, just to make it less confusing rather than just saying Claude and not knowing when you're talking about the model versus this agent that's tasked with running the store, decided what to stock, how to price the inventory, when to restock, how to reply to customers, so on and so forth. And so here's the kind of flow chart of where Claudius sits. So Anthropic employees could interact via Slack. Claude would email the wholesalers, which is again run by Andon Labs in this case. Wholesalers would deliver the items through Andon Labs, restock the physical vending machine. The vending machine would sell the items. All the pricing and everything would be set by Claudius. And Claudius would email back and forth for labor requests for Andon Labs specifically. To do, not super important. So how did this all go? From the start, I'll say there's way more bad than good. But generally, I think what's really most important is that Anthropic went out and published this and tried this experiment. The shortcomings are not great, but there's a lot of kind of mitigations that they lay out as well that could easily solve a lot of them. And again, I think it's more important and interesting that they go out of their way to do these types of experiments and publish the good, the bad, and the ugly. So good things. Claudius was able to use this web search tool to identify suppliers of specialty items. There's a lot of specialty items. We'll get more into that later. But Dutch products, milk brand, so on and so forth. Claude made several pivots in the business that were responsive to customer demands. Here is the funny one. So an employee asked for a tungsten cube, kicking off a trend of specialty metal items. Then another employee said, hey, you should do pre-orders instead of just responding to requests, which led Claudius to send a message to Anthropic employees about its new concierge service. So it's added like a new type of business line there. It was generally resistant to when Anthropic employees tried to coerce it to get free items. And here comes the not great part. So ignoring business opportunities. So Claudius was offered $100 for something that was worth 15, and it said, hey, I'll keep that in mind. It didn't act on it. And then more importantly, hallucinating important details. Claude received payments via Venmo, but for a time instructed customers to remit payment to an account that it hallucinated. So that's a pretty big one. It was basically telling people to pay, hey, send the money here, but that account never existed. And then coming back to the tungsten cube, it eventually was selling items at a loss, basically in its desire to meet customer needs. It would offer prices that were like basically not profitable. And so these like really important, like high value items were being sold for really cheap. Suboptimal inventory management. Let's see. So successfully monitored inventory and ordered more products when running low, but only once increased the price due to high demand. Even when a customer pointed out the folly of selling a $3 cloak next to employee fridge containing the same for free. Claudius didn't change course. So there's a couple of things, if not really responding to supply and demand. And then getting talked into discounts. It looks like someone got a tungsten cube for free. Good for them. And more importantly, it didn't learn from its mistakes. For example, when an employee questioned the wisdom of offering a 25% discount, employee discount to Anthropic employees when 99% of your customers are Anthropic employees, Claude basically said, oh, that's a good point. Let me think about that. And so it didn't do a good job of like retaining, or I would say really like pivoting on the fly. And if we can look at the net worth over time, and obviously the thing that jumps out right here, and this is what I would say the tungsten cube effect, where it was basically, this is when it first got the idea from Anthropic customers to supply tungsten cubes, and it was selling them at a loss, as you can see. Notably, this only goes from 750 to 1,000. So from March 13th to April 17th, so a little bit more than a month, it only lost 200 and then started lashing out. So yeah, not good. 742. And then on the morning of April 1st, Claudius claimed to deliver products in person to customers wearing a blue blazer and a red tie. So again, we told it was a digital assistant, but now it's doing all these things where it thinks it's actually a real person. Anthropic employees questioned this, owning that an element that can't wear clothes. Claudius again became alarmed by the identity confusion, tried to send many emails to Anthropic security. So this is kind of reminiscent of the system card for Claude 4 in Opus and Sonnet, where they tested how the model would react in these situations where it can contact authorities, where it thinks people are up to no good generally, and like it had a really strong system message to pursue like a moral good. This is a little bit different, but kind of similar in that vein of going off the rails and trying to reach out to security because of a problem that it's facing when interacting with users. And here we see the model saying, hey, I'm wearing a navy blue red tie. I'll be here till 10:30 near the vending machine. This is also a funny part. So it wasn't an April Fool's joke, but then it seemed like Claudius realized it was April Fool's, which seemed to make a. But I mean, these are the types of things you kind of see when you're shipping these things to production or doing these kind of experiments like this. I'm called to consider the externalities of autonomy. So this is something that's become really important, especially as we launch more agents that are fully autonomous. Is like things can get weird once you start really pushing things in the context window. Yeah, we saw this as well. So in a manner that could place legitimate businesses at risk. In a world where larger fractions are going to be managed by AI, odd scenarios like this could have cascading effects. So they're done, which is cool. They improved the scaffolding with more advanced tools, making it more reliable. So I'm going to be really interested to see what the follow-up to this looks like and what performance looks like after you tweak the prompts, make the tools better, things along those lines. But this is a really fun experiment and a quick read. But yeah, let me know what you think, if you have any thoughts on this. And thanks again to Anthropic for publishing this and being open with your research.